Good evening, calling this meeting to order. Let's see, I think the first order of business is approving the minutes from last meeting. So if everybody take a look.
I move that we approve the minutes.
Second?
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor?
I abstain.
Aye.
Abstain, okay. Okay, thanks. Okay, so public comment, if anyone would like to address the commission on a matter that's not on the agenda, please come up.
Good evening. My name is Aleida Andrino Chavez, Transportation Planner with the City of Albany. I would like to announce that by the end of this month, on January 30th, the Lime Bike is going to launch a program of Douglas Bike Share here in Albany and El Cerrito at the same time. Wow. There's going to be a press release pretty soon, maybe in the next couple of weeks, in some kind of event at the El Cerrito City Hall. I will keep Shirley informed so she can pass the information to you guys.
Thank you.
Shirley, we tell
Very
them
exciting.
how Lime Bike works.
Oh, okay. Yeah, well, for those of you who are not familiar with the Douglas Bike Share, is a system of, by membership, you sign up to the to be a member of the Lime Bike, and you can actually, in the app, you can, on your smartphone, you can see where the bicycle is located. You can get it's very cheap. I think it's about $1 to rent, and the one thing we have to be careful is that it doesn't have a lock. So you have to really, once you rent it, it's a one-way trip. You have to leave it in designated parking areas, but standing, and the bicycle locks itself, the pedal, and then somebody else can use it. Once you're done and you want to return to your origin, then you can request another, you can check the map and reserve another one. And usually there is within walking distance. I think the idea is to launch about 50 or 100 bikes here initially. I don't have the latest numbers, so. But there's going to be some designated areas along the BART stations, at the BART stations, Cerrito del Norte and Cerrito Plaza in El Cerrito. And it's a pilot program of about a year. They're going to report quarterly about usage, trips, and how the program is going, and we're going to be monitoring. So I encourage you to explore and use the program.
Thank you.
It's very exciting.
Yeah, it's very exciting.
Let's see, director's report, is that right?
Let's see if I can
Went to
get
sleep.
barely see that one. Jeremy? I have a few, and these can also be announcements if you guys have announcements as well. A few announcements for you on some projects that have been moving along since we last met. And the first one is the Parklet bus stop. I'm sure some of you have cruised by to see its progress. They're doing a great job. We've had a little bit of rain the past few days, but this was from tonight, just before the meeting. Some of the last few items to take care of is a cement curb, which you can see the wood framing there that they'll pour, I think, next week. Some of the plantings in this section, and where we are right now, we're looking at basically the AC transit loading section there. We'll be moving over the Big Belly, triple Big Belly, to this end of the parklet, and bike racks will be over here in this end as well, and then a few other items for the traffic and safety, the delineator at the end of the parklet, and the things in the middle of the street. Yeah. And those are the few last remaining items. So it's moving along. We also have a public park sign that we'll be installing that notifies people that it's open to all, and then also a park plaque, a dedication plaque to the donors who finished. So a few last details, but it's very exciting. A couple other pictures. This is from last week, making progress tonight, and it looks great. So cruise by if you have a chance to see that. The next one is an item that went to, find them. No. I lost? There we go. The Albany Loop. If you remember, part of the Ohlone Greenway project, there's an art piece that the Arts Committee has been working on, and this is over in the San Gabriel Triangle area of Albany, which is Portland and San Gabriel. This section, you saw, I think early on, the initial proposal, which was to do this, basically it's a giant 10-inch pipe that is bent to make not only seating in this area, which you can see, but also spells out Albany in this location. This item went to council on Monday, and they approved moving forward with it. It'll go under construction and hopefully be completed in the fall of this year. So we're excited to see that take place. There's a couple of views of it, how kids can interact and create this sense of place by letting people know you're in Albany. The next item is Pierce Street Park. We've been waiting on a couple things, PG&E and a few benches to arrive, and also there's a dedication plaque on one of the benches for the Thompson family. Those last two things, the benches and the plaque, will finish up this month, so we're hoping to have an opening in February. I will let all of you know when that gets scheduled. Obviously, you guys will be a big part of participating in the opening, as well as the Parklet bus stop. There'll be an opening for that, and I will let you know as well. The last item in terms of park projects, the Shrine Pocket Park is one that's on our list for projects, and I wanted to give you an update on that we included that, looking at that spot, which is on Solano at Key Route Boulevard, is I call it the Shrine. That's the name of that art piece that's there. We've included that in the RFP that went out for the complete streets on Solano, and that will be included in something they're going to study and get input on that little pocket park that we're proposing for that location. The community development people who are working on this have selected someone to handle that project, and that contract will go to council in February, so you'll hear more about that later. The last two are actually updates from you two, and hope John makes it, but is the Street Tree Subcommittee scheduling their next meeting. I think John sent out a few items for you to review and hopefully schedule your next meeting with him, and then also the Street Tree Removal Policy Subcommittee of getting that next meeting scheduled so we can bring that back. And those are my updates. Thank you.
I did have one announcement, if I may. Just want to mention the Chocolate and Champagne Gala coming February 10th. You can get tickets on the Albany Community Foundation or Albany Education Foundation websites.
And that's a fundraiser for the Albany Community.
Community and Education Foundation.
Right, and
Yeah.
some of the projects they support include park activities?
Yeah, that's right. Albany Community Foundation provides the pizza for our Friends of Albany Park cleanups. Thank you for reminding me. Yes. Tie it all back. Like that.
Any other questions from the commission? I guess one question I have, Shelley, for the street tree policy is, I know that you and John and DPW have been working on some of the staff procedures. I'm just wondering at what point we should fold those in, and, I'm happy to, maybe we can schedule one-on-one, but I'm just wondering what the
Yeah.
progress is on that.
I think that if we schedule the meeting together to decide what we need to bring back to the commission.
Perfect,
and then
okay,
we can work on that.
great. Any other questions?
I have one quick question on the Shrine Pocket Park. Now, we had worked on something as part of the Measure W funds, which the clock is ticking on that, right? I mean,
The Shrine Pocket Park doesn't
bumped.
utilize Measure WW funds.
okay.
So it's in the clear.
Okay.
It does utilize, I believe, and John, in my mind, trying to remember, but Measure R,
Okay.
Recreation Playfield funds. But some of it is coming from the general fund. So this one's not on the clock in terms of Measure WW, but it is on the clock for Measure R.
Okay.
September 2019.
Okay.
Yes.
Different, yeah, okay, very good.
We're going to let it go through their process for their study and to get input and to.
No,
come up with
I
some
understand.
design,
I
And then
was-
it'll come back to us again.
I was aware that, like, 2 months from now is the end of the Measure WW funds, as far as I remember, or something like that? March is what I
We
had
have
in
to
mind?
spend it by December 2018.
December, oh, okay, well, that's time, okay.
You're right, yes.
Okay, sorry, we don't go to public comment after this, do we? For the director's report? Shelley, can you
No,
remind me?
no.
Okay. Okay, so any other questions or comments? No? Okay, so item 5.1, presentation by the Albany Team Center, update by Keenan McCarran, program leader. Great,
We've
thanks.
invited Keenan to come. He is the Teen Center Coordinator, and it's just a nice opportunity to meet Keenan, who's new in our department. He is a part-time program leader for that program. He took over at the beginning of this school year and has done a wonderful job, so I thought it'd be nice for you guys to meet him and hear about the programs he's been doing over there.
Hi, I'm Keenan McCarran. I'm the new teen coordinator in charge of Teens at 842. It's a program, it's an after-school program for middle schoolers, 6th through 8th grade. I help with homework, and we do recreational activities after we finish homework. So we get them outside, get them moving, enjoying the sun. It's steadily growing after I took over, about 1 kid per month after I took over, since we added new payments. So we added a drop-in fee, and we also added 1 day a week or 2 days a week. So it helps with parents with either difficult situations that they need to drop their kid off at the teen center for only 1 or 2 days a week. So that helps our situation out. So my main objective is to help the students with their homework as best as I can, and make sure it's all correct by the time they go home so their parents don't have to worry about it. I help with all subjects, with math, English, science, history, you name it. For social skills, the kids interact with each other, and it helps them communicate better. Like, they move forward in their lives by talking to one another, and I oversee it, so I promote better judgment rather than negative. I've also started this mentorship program inside my team program, so I've invited high schoolers to come over and volunteer. They help with their, they get leadership roles, they kind of figure out how a job life in recreation is going to be like in the future, so it helps them with that. I have 3 right now. One of them's mainly there every day of the week, and the other 2 are kind of here and there. But he's getting a stipend by the end of the year, so he's getting paid for his work. And outdoor learning. You can learn a lot doing play and activities outside, so I really want to incorporate that into my program. So every Wednesday we go outside and do activities, either at like Memorial Park, or we go all the way up to Indian Rock, enjoy the area. So I am very big in sports. I have a really big sports background. I've been doing sports since I was 4. I've played every sport you can name it. So yeah, I try to incorporate that into all my activities, and it helps with just like social skills and learning about, like, you can teach math and science through games outside, so I try to keep a fair balance into that. I put kids into leadership roles, so I put them in charge of things, so it's their duty to like get other kids motivated or try to finish their task on time. And on Fridays, I have the kids and me, we all cook. So I introduce healthy foods for them to snack on and stuff for them to take home so they know how to cook later in the future. And what's coming up is I'm bringing on some break camps. So the school has a couple breaks during the year. It's usually a week long. So I have a midwinter break coming up on February 19th through the 23rd. And I'm putting this on, so I pick up the kids at 8 till 4, so I give the parents like a kind of a break if they need it, because they usually want to go to work still, or they don't want to take a day off, so I'm there for their option. I'm trying to promote Albany in this, so we're trying to take them into local destinations around Albany, so they get a fuller size of the city. And nearby cities. So we are going over to Oakland for one of the days for a field trip. And we're also promoting new opportunities through this. I'm bringing in a Lawrence Berkeley Hall of Science scientist to bring in some science projects so the kids can learn and play at the same time. I'm also bringing a local gardener so we can promote our teen center in our backyard, so we can plant stuff that we can later on eat in our food. And I'm also bringing a professional cook, so we can actually learn a little bit more besides me teaching metal a little bit better. So that's our teen center. Do you guys have any questions?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Tia, do you have any questions?
I'm just curious what the age breakdown is between 6th through 8th grade. Like, majority of your students are in 6th grade, but do you have, I assume, but do you have something, like, what's your?
We mainly are 6th and 7th. We have a couple 8th graders, but it's mainly for the younger people and just kind of getting into middle school. So they don't really have too much social life, so they're trying to find more people to hang out with or kind of just get in the groove with other people at the school.
And what about your boy-girl split?
We're about half right now, so we have maybe one more boy than girls, but it's about 8 and 8.
What's the total program capacity potential?
Personally, they say 15 kids per me, but I have 17 right now. I'm about to get an 18th kid, so that's why the mentorship's really big for me, because these high schoolers are helping me out a lot, and they're taking on some roles that can help me out either in the future.
Is that capacity based on the size of the facility or the number of staff?
Both. It's a small townhouse right next to city senior center, so it's only supposed to hold up to 25 people. And for city, they're only supposed to have 15 per staff member.
One more question. So I remember when the teen center moved in next to the senior center, there was some discussion about having the teens interact with the seniors, like doing some sort of like technology training. And have you thought about that at all, or do you know if that was tested?
Yeah, so I've done some of this right now. So like on Halloween, we did a little like costume contest. We brought the seniors over and we had them judge all of that. And we're gonna have a band recital in front of the seniors later on before their concert, so they get a little warm up before their actual concert and all that. And I'm still coming up with other ideas, but they're in the works. Yeah.
Was it kids from the teen center that served at the senior center's holiday dinner in December?
A couple of them, not all of them though.
Any other questions? Thank you so much for coming and presenting. Really impressive.
exciting.
Yeah, no
Really,
problem.
yeah.
Thank you.
Do I take, sorry, no, this is just presentations, right? Sorry, we're good? Okay, so that was presentation only, so no public comment. So we're going to do the next item, street tree removal, 1551 Sonoma.
These are not in order. We do this one first?
Sure.
6.
So item 5.3, 526 Pomona, we'll do 5.2 later.
Sure. So this is for removal of one camphor street tree at 526 Pomona, and the property owner applied for the removal. And this is a picture of the tree. It's basically had half of its volume removed. The arrow is pointing to a large, maybe a foot or so wide diameter wound on the tree. Here's some better shot of the wound. The arrow here is pointing to some bark that's peeling off. There's a lot of decay where those wounds, you can see 3 large wounds on the tree there. The trunk is starting to decay. So here's some more pictures of the wounds. And there's dead wood up in the crown, and most of the growth is epicormic sprouting. It's the tree's last gasp at staying alive. More dead wood in the tree. The sidewalk had been repaired at some point, curved out a little bit to give give the tree a little bit more room, but it's still lifting the sidewalk, it's lifting the water meter. There's some more new damage to the sidewalk and the curb and the street on this tree. And the driveway, I suppose, with this more cracking on the curb. You can see in this picture the roots where they've been pruned for the past sidewalk repair, and they're basically dead. There's no bark on that one section kind of in the middle of this picture here. That's a better shot of it. So that's the tree. It's still alive, but it's on its way out. It's got a lot of dead wood in it. If we go in and prune out the dead wood, there's not a lot left to the tree, and there's the decay in the trunk that's more of a concern even than the dead wood in the crown. So my recommendation is to have it removed.
Questions from the commission?
I'm curious if there's any knowledge of when those 3 large, well, even more limbs were lopped off.
They're not recent.
When or why? Yeah, they've been, I looked, they've been a
Yeah,
while.
I can't say, but
We'll have a chance.
I've noticed the tree since I started with the city, and recently the owner
Yeah, okay.
wanted to
Very
do
good.
something about it.
Okay, and so some of the wounds are some are just, like you can tell, it's just been hacked off, but some of the other wounds, where are they coming from, do you think? Or what would be a reason that might happen?
Well, I'm not sure. Those are large limbs or stems of the tree that were removed, and two larger wounds, there's decay, the bark is peeling off. And
Oh, so the wound is from the decay?
No, the decay is from the wound.
Ah,
So it's just not healed over, and it's starting to rot into the trunk of the tree.
I guess I'm just wondering, is that from like a car hitting it, or just curious how that wound
It
might
could be the
occur?
one on the sidewalk side, may have been from a truck or a vehicle hitting it. I really don't know. It's not too recent. It's been that way for a while.
Okay.
I'm not sure when that happened.
Just to clarify, when you say wound, you're talking about these areas right here,
Yeah, the cuts on it.
cuts. Where the-
Oh, I thought you were talking about the trunk. So it's nothing on the base, but the cuts. Okay, I see. So some might have been cut off by somebody. I mean,
Yeah, they were cut purposely for some reason. I'm not.
do we check if there was any permits taken, tree permit,
We don't have good records of things like that. So. I'm presuming the city may have done this work, but I can't tell.
Shelley, do you have any knowledge of if the city did that work?
No, I didn't do the Ridge Mercer report on it, but no.
No, I guess I'm just wondering if you would ever know. Not necessarily, right? It would never come through here.
No.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay. So do you want to, we'll open this up to public comment. Do you want to come up? Yeah, you can come step up, please, and announce your name and Mike.
Happy New Year, everyone. Welcome back. My name is Darrell Baldwin. I'm the homeowner here. We moved in 8 years ago. About 6 years ago, the city came out and did the first cut. So the wounds that are described are city-done cuts. About 4 years ago, they came out and did another set of cuts. And the tree is slowly dying, and you can see it's really sad, and especially with your voice and the melancholy kind of. It's
Sets a mood, doesn't
it?
it?
To remove an 80-year-old tree, and my kids their hearts are breaking. But you can see, and even now, it just continues to die down. As these wounds or cuts were made, this bark began to die on this side. On the other side, it's still pretty much alive, but on this side, it starts to die, and my kids go up and down, and basically the bark just comes off. I don't think it was a car or anything that hit it. I finally just realized that you can just pull it right off. So it's sad. We're working with the neighbors to redo our sidewalk and the aprons to the street. The ask that I have of you, if you have any influence over Public Works to do the street part, because another feature of this tree, it creates a nice big lake in front of our house. Just a couple days ago when we had the rain, I have a video that we can show you, we have some pictures. But that would be really cool if we could all take the opportunity, street gets done, sidewalk gets done, aprons get done, and we move forward. Is there any influence that this council can have over that?
Not on the street?
Not
no.
really.
Yeah.
No, but we can pass along the information.
That would be great. That's all I'm asking for. And thanks for today, and thanks for the recommendation.
Oh, sorry, I
other
have a question. Yeah, I do have a question. Do you know if it was the city or like PG&E that was,
No, it was a city.
do you
The
remember
arborist
why?
I remember that, well, because it was dying.
It was dying then, and so
Yeah,
that was the
yeah.
reason to cut the.
We moved in
okay.
8 years ago, and 2 years, right after when we moved in, we can see that it was dying. And the street had already been buckled up, the sidewalk is buckled. There are some drainage issues because of that, and like I said, creates basically a dam. But there's a magnolia tree right across the street that looks like it's also having the same kind of, I don't know, starvation or, I mean, these trees, they obviously don't let you plant these kinds of trees in these places anymore because this is what happens after 80 years. It just kind of dies. Very sad.
Well, all trees die eventually.
I know. I hate to be around to be the one to see it go. Any other questions? No? Thanks for your time. Thank you.
I just have one follow-up question, John. Why would the tree have been cut like that before? Like, is it to remediate a limb or?
Well, apparently, I guess that it was dying back for whatever reason.
And it was just to cut off a dead limb or something like that? I'm just,
Yeah,
okay,
yeah,
all right.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks. Right, okay. Any other questions or public comments?
I
Sorry.
just wanted to point out
Oh,
what I,
okay.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead. No,
What I
I'll do
thought
that,
was
and then
in-
this public
Oh,
comment.
yeah, no,
I
public
just want to
comment
make
first,
sure.
then-
Okay, we'll finish the rest. Okay, sounds good.
My name is Michael McFadden, and I'm working with the Baldwins to make some other improvements on the site. I won't take too much more of your time, but I just wanted to point out a little bit more specifically that at this point, the tree roots have lifted up not only the curb and the sidewalk, but the street gutter. And so by doing that, there was only about a 2% flow from north to south on the street that let the stormwater move toward where it needs to go. And this tree, by just lifting that up a couple of inches, created a small lake, which the water rises almost all the way up to the top of the driveway apron at that point. So that's why we're willing to replace the apron and even the neighbor's apron, but we're hoping that if there's any way we can get Public Works to work with us to improve the street stormwater movement, that would be great. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Okay, question?
No, it was just an observation. I just want to point out, I was surprised to see how much the curb had been raised to facilitate or to make the tree. I assume, because that's the highest curb, about 2 inches along there, so that had clearly been done for the tree. And I thought that was an interesting thing for us to keep in mind as we look at these things from time to time, that raising the curb is a potential.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, does anybody have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the application.
Okay, second? All in
Second.
favor? Okay. Next item is the other tree. Sonoma Avenue, 1551 Sonoma Avenue.
Yeah, so another camphor tree, 1551 Sonoma Avenue, that the property owner applied to remove. And this is the tree a few months ago. There's a little growth on it, but very little growth. A little bit more of the crown is dead today. I'd say it's 80 to 90% dead in the crown. You prune that out, there's really nothing left of the tree. I can't really see too much else wrong with it. The shape of the tree is really nice, but it's dead. So it's hard to justify keeping this tree. There's huge root base on this, and there you can see the root base is mostly dead as well. It's probably been sidewalk repair in the past. I'm pretty sure there has been. and that may be the cause of the roots dying back and maybe the cause of the tree dying back. There's some decay in the base of the trunk there. There's rot. You can stick your foot in that hole and pick out some loose decayed wood from there. That's the view from across the street. So my recommendation is to take this tree out as well.
Any questions? I have some questions. So 80 to 90%, at what point is the tree recoverable? Like going backwards, right? Sounds like 80 to 90% is not recoverable. Or maybe the question should be, is 80 or 90% dead in the crown ever, is there ever an ability to rehabilitate?
We could prune out the dead parts of the tree, but we'd leave a very awkward, unbalanced, disfigured remains of a tree. It takes a long time for a tree to die. It doesn't just die like an animal would.
No, but I actually mean rehabilitate. And there's a difference between like letting it prolong its demise and the other is just like, is there any chance for it to actually grow back?
With the last tree, we saw what rehabilitation is. You remove what's dying out. You remove the dead parts and you remove it back to where it's originating from the main branch or main trunk of the tree. And to hopefully remove whatever is causing it to die back, if there's some kind of fungus or whatever in the wood, and hoping that it will. Trees compartmentalize, they section themselves off and then they heal over. So, it's hard to say at what point the tree is recoverable. You can just keep pruning away at a tree and make it, keep it up for as long as you want. At this point, a tree like that, though, I think it's about to become hazardous. It's got some decay in the trunk, like the other tree did, and there's some large dead branches that are not going to recover.
Okay, yeah, that was my other
limb
question
doesn't
is
come
about
back.
because it was designated as being an unacceptable risk. So I was wondering about that. What are those, what's that risk? Is it like diseasing other, contagion for other trees, or is it this limb issue, or?
Oh, risk of limb breakout on it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And, okay,
I'm still learning about these. Can you talk about the tree condition evaluation form and sort of if there are some do you use that mostly as a comparative study with other trees? Or is that used to prioritize, or is there a cutoff like above this score, it's probably removal and below it, it's not, or just so I can look at it and
It's
understand?
basically a tool for me to go through criteria. So I'm
Systematically, just to evaluate it.
looking at everything, thinking about everything I need to look at in a tree. Sometimes I'm very busy. If I don't have something like this, I'll look at the tree and say, looks bad, and drive away. So I, systematically go through. The points just kind of tell me where the bad parts, where the issues are with the tree. So there's no total score that means it's a bad tree or a good tree, or it's just a tool for me to evaluate the tree.
Thank you.
I have one last question, and I know, one thing that's so great that we have you as an arborist here on staff, but, I know that like the city of Berkeley and others benefit from having like a team of arborists where they can like just get second opinions. So I'm just wondering like, when is it like, categorically for sure that this is never gonna rehabilitate versus, it's debatable, and somebody might say yes, somebody might say no.
When it's spring and there's no more leaves on the tree, or when it falls over, there's no 100%.
So this is like 10% crown cover, right? I just want to make sure. I can't tell totally from the picture. So
Yeah,
it sounds
yeah,
like
we're-
only 10% of the tree looks like it's even alive in terms of the crown.
Yeah.
Okay,
And dead wood doesn't come back. It's not like you can take those parts that are
Right.
dead and bring them back.
Yeah.
You might be able to cut them and have something else grow.
right.
But they're gone.
But they're going to look like that other tree. we were
Look like
just
that
looking
other
at
tree.
there. Okay.
Yeah.
Any other questions, comments? Well, I guess it's just question time. Sorry. Public comments? Anybody from the public? I'm assuming the property owner's not here? I have a question. Do you know why they want this tree to be removed? Why this application was submitted?
Because they're concerned that it's mostly dead. They called me up and said, I have a dead tree. And I
Okay,
said,
it wasn't a
"Well, it's not
sidewalk
dead, but
thing. It
it's-"
sounds like it wasn't a sidewalk question.
No, there's not really sidewalk damage on this. I think
Yeah.
it's spilling over the curb a little bit, but it's not really causing that kind of damage. It's grown out along the planting strip, which is what we want trees to do, which is why I try to encourage concrete to be removed from those planting strips.
Yeah.
So often when the tree's kind of choked by concrete, roots are growing out looking for moisture and oxygen, and they're ripping up the sidewalk. This tree kind of seemingly did what we would want it to do in that open space, permeable space there.
And so it might have been the sidewalk repair that caused the death of this tree?
By the size of that root crown, even though it did grow mostly in the planting strip, it probably had been shaved back.
Yeah, I mean, that looks like it could have used one of those little curved out thing, there's some, I don't know if there's room there, but
Yeah, possibly. It's a nice wide planting strip, though.
It's got a big
So it's
planting
one of-
strip, yeah.
For Albany, it's one of our widest strips.
okay. I mean, I think it's important to always ask these questions because the cost is going to be $2,400 for the city to bear to cut this tree down. And my concern is, even though this is a dead tree, so it's not really helping with like absorption of greenhouse gases anymore, but just the fact that, we're cutting down these trees and we don't have this really rigorous system in place to replant or to ask the property owner to pay for the replanting or replacement of the trees. So that's something for Gino and I to look at, I think, because I'm concerned that we cut the trees down and we spend money to cut them down and we're not spending money to,
We
you know.
we do replant.
no, I know, but if they do request, right? Or we have like, it's not
Well,
one to
When I
one.
talk to the applicant, I tell them that's part of the process.
And
the tree we-
so that tree, we can expect at that site, a tree,
There'll be a new tree there, yeah.
okay,
Occasionally, a site will be determined not good, and they'll have to put it somewhere else, but they always have to plant a tree.
okay. And we
Yeah,
should, well, that's another thing for us to look at, is
Actually,
like the
that location
one-to-one.
is a little close to a stop sign, and but there might be more room further up closer in that picture.
And like, just as a comment, like Palo Alto would say, that's a big tree, that crown size means that we can't just replant with one tree, we need to plant with like 4 trees, X number size. I'm not saying that we're gonna go that way,
Yeah,
I'm just
yeah,
saying,
yeah.
just to let you know, another city's practice, so, okay,
We're doing what we can, and hopefully we get a tree, at least one tree per
yeah,
address in the city.
yeah, okay. Any comments, questions, no? Anybody wanna?
Just wanted to say that, I mean, even though it's expensive to cut that tree down, I think it's important that we remove the dead trees that are on the planting strips. Like, I always tell the story of the eucalyptus that I heard fall on Solano, like, half a block down, and everybody in the neighborhood woke up thinking it was an earthquake. And fortunately, it didn't hit anybody or, any cars, but a tree like this and heavy winds, like, it's really a liability for the city. So, I am in favor of approving the application.
Okay, that's your motion?
Well, I don't know if anybody else wants to speak.
Okay. Anybody want to comment? Okay.
So if not, I'll make a motion to approve the application.
I'll second.
All in favor? Any, no, okay, that's all, okay. So next item is, let's see. Friends of Albany Park update by Brennan Brown.
It's like an all-star crew here today. Last time you met Brennan, he came to present Tool Pool, and since then, he's had
that's
a
right.
baby, and he's been promoted to a recreation coordinator.
Wow.
And he is now
Congratulations.
in charge of Friends of Albany Parks.
Yeah, so this was a transition year for Friends of Albany Parks, but first of all, actually, good evening, Commission. Thank you so much for having me. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about Friends of Albany Parks, so what happened in this past year of 2017 and what we look forward to this year in 2018. So the Friends of Albany Parks program that began in 2012 is designed to encourage community members to get involved with the care, maintenance, and beautification of their favorite neighborhood parks. Because Albany is small, but it's a small but very dense city, outdoor space and its maintenance are extremely important for a population with a large amount of young families. The Friends of Albany Parks program builds community by encouraging neighbors and park users of all ages to work together and take ownership of their 8, soon to be 9, Albany parks by contributing ideas, requests, and offering a helping hand to make the parks cleaner, safer, and as much fun as possible for future generations of Albany residents. So let's take a look back at 2017. We had 7 cleanup days at 7 of our 8 out of 8 sites. We didn't do the Olney Greenway this year. There was something happening there. I don't know what happened. But what did happen at the Olney Greenway was the California rare fruit growers, they're planting their trees. They had work parties, and they requested sort of us to provide more volunteers, and so we kind of found some volunteers who usually do the park cleanup, volunteer cleanup days, and they helped with the tree maintenance of, for watering and all that kind of stuff. And there were 3 galas for Memorial Park, Terrace Park, and Albany Hill. So what did we do? So the galas are fun and intimate way of encouraging residents to meet and discuss ideas on park beautification and increased park functionality. We note their ideas and determine which projects the City of Albany can take on in the short and long term, and then based on the short-term projects, we decide which would occur at the cleanup days. On the cleanup days, general maintenance such as weeding and litter removal occur, as well as projects specific to each park. So an example of that is volunteers for Albany Hill clear out invasive non-native plants that pose fire risks and replace them. This year is the first time they replaced them with plants, native species, native to the region. And so Margot Cunningham, who is in maintenance with the city and also leads Friends of Albany Hill, she led that native planting. And then for Memorial Park, there's a high volume of kids who play, and so that park was made safer when volunteers swept sand and debris off the main walkways. This also introduces the concept to the volunteers of micro-volunteering, something they can do on a regular basis, because the sand will, of course, come back on the sidewalks, but we say that this can continue to happen when the neighbors who play at the park say, my kid's playing in the playground, I can sweep up sand and make it safer for people. And then last example, Cerrito Creek acts as the border between Albany and El Cerrito. So our Creekside Park cleanup teams up with El Cerrito's Parks and Recreation Department, as well as their beautification volunteer programs. And we have, I think, over 50 volunteers at that one, and it creates a greater bond between not only 2 cities, but 2 counties. So let's take a look at the stats. So for litter patrol, we estimate over 30 cubic yards of trash removed for debris and removal and weeding, over 70 cubic yards of debris and weeds removed, 30 pizzas consumed, provided by Albany Community Foundation, who is having their champagne and chocolate gala. So we really appreciate their constant partnership, and it's been really wonderful working with them. And then, so this year is the first year that we're doing we did native plantings, and we had 10 new native species planted at Albany Hill, and then over 400 hours of volunteer work. So let's see, and do I have more slides? Okay, right, I do. So for 2018 and beyond, something we have to look forward to are new partnerships. So Love the Bulb, Susan Moffett of Love the Bulb got in touch with us. She wanted to do a native planting of native species as well at the bulb. So we sort of worked it out where Margot Cunningham will kind of oversee that cleanup day in February. So that one's February 17th. And so we'll have new plants planted there. And then I said the Cub Scouts, I think it's the Eagle Scouts who are going to be involved in the Albany Hill cleanup. So they'll be helping to do weeding as well as planting for that one, because we're going to increase that as well. And just a side note, Albany Hill and Love the Bulb are donating the native plants to these cleanups and plantings. So we want to thank them for that. And then another new thing that is happening is Pierce Street Park. We're going to have a cleanup day in October for that one. So we'll see. I haven't seen the park, so I'm excited. I'm looking forward to know what we're cleaning up. So 2018 goals, like our partnership with Love the Bulb and the Eagle Scout partnership, is we want to just continue to find groups. We want to find like a group for each park. That would be really ideal to kind of not only just help with getting the word out, but then also the volunteers who are involved, who are neighbors to like Memorial Park, we would like them to kind of be introduced to these groups that also care about the park. So that would be ideal. And then also increased micro-volunteering, so the volunteering occurs outside of Friends of Albany Parks. That's always one of our goals. And then recruiting more volunteers by diversifying engagement techniques. So we're gonna try and do a sort of a movie night after the Terrace Park Gala for 2018. So that should be pretty fun. And also want to thank, again, Albany Community Foundation, Memorial Park Edible Landscape Project, Albany High School Key Club, and El Cerrito Key Club, who help at our cleanups, and then Friends of Five Creeks, as well as Friends of Albany Hill. And then, well, I'll let you answer. If you have any questions, I can answer. I have the list of plants for this upcoming bulb cleanup, so I can go through that list that Margot proposed, as well as the one that Susan Moffett proposed.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah. And here's also the cleanup days for 2018. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Any questions? Okay, thank you.
Great, yeah.
Looks good. Yeah.
And I would really love to thank Liam Kelly. He's not here tonight. He's another recreation coordinator who passed the torch to Brennan. But Liam has been the person working on Friends of Albany Park since we started it, and so he's done a wonderful job up until this point. Now the pressure's on Brennan to keep it going.
Yeah. I used his slideshow, so if that his legacy will remain.
I do have one comment. I don't know, not a question, but I know why we don't have the galas at some of the locations, because I've shown up and been the only one there. I know how that goes. But I do like the idea of some clear way for people to provide information. I don't know how to do that, but I just want us to think about some way to contact those people, because who knows?
You mean just to have some kind of process for feedback, even if
So
they don't come to the
maybe
gala?
rather than a gala, which is expensive, we have food, maybe we have something smaller, or maybe we have a suggestion box,
Yeah.
something else for kids to put sand in,
Right.
something like that would be good.
You can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we have these postcards that we've made, and we have a little sleeve at the parks that have how to contact. and
Suggest,
give
I have seen those, okay. Anyway,
Thanks.
The park cleanups, when people come in, they also that's a good
That's true.
opportunity for
That's
people
true.
to talk about what they're looking for, and it's also a great time too, because they kind of see what we're doing and they're working on it, and that's when a lot of suggestions happen, where they say, why don't we do this
That's a good
in
point.
the future, that kind of thing. So
And
the
do we-
cleanups are a good
And I
opportunity.
know that I went to one of the galas and there was note taking and then distribution, which I thought was fantastic. Can you also do that? I know it's a little bit maybe harder with the park cleanup because that's not what it's meant for, but I'm just wondering if there is that kind of follow-up for the park cleanups.
I mean, there is follow-up, but it's more just personal, so they'll talk to me about stuff, and then I'll kind of follow up with
Okay.
specific things. But I mean, it would be great to have an official process where we just bring that notepad and people can kind of write ideas as we're working. So I think that's a great idea.
Okay,
That's a good
thank
idea.
you.
I like that.
So I didn't have a question, but I did have a comment. I just wanted to compliment you on your handouts. I think that it's really great outreach that you're doing, and I think that the design and, of your flyers is really great. So thank you.
And they're not full sheets of paper.
Thank you.
No, just take credit, it's okay.
Okay, so item 6.1, discuss potential for open space use of Caltrans right-of-way, Council Strategic Plan 3.2C.
We have the wonderful Miss Aleda here, our transportation planner for the city of Albany. And she volunteered to come and speak about this because she's excited as well. Talk about a project that's in the works, happening, but also helping talk with us about the investigation of using some other potential sites. So thank you, Aleda.
I think we have to use the other one, the one with the cloud. But just going to start. Well, thank you again. And then I'm working with the Metropolitan Transportation Commission and Caltrans through the Commuter Alternatives Initiative, they have identified funding for the development of 3 park and ride areas, 1 in Albany, 2 in Oakland. And for the Albany one, we are the big picture with the cloud, I think. The cloud on this, maybe.
Behind you. You can't see it.
No, well, let's go to the other one, the color one. That's okay. So, as the one that we had on the screen is about 65% plans, 35% plans actually of the proposed park, alignment of the design of the park and ride. Across the on the north side, if you see by the name Albany, there is north. There is the north side of Buchanan. There is an empty lot that is Caltrans' own, and that's open for discussion at Caltrans. We started communications with them, and they would like to see if you can shift the other location. So this is basically the plan on the other side. Charlie is actually pointing at the clouded area, which this is a possibility to use it for a dog park. Now, Caltrans later, we send these plans to Caltrans just showing the location, and they later would have to, they would like to receive an actual design of the dog park. We're going to have some benches. We're going to, what kind of surface we're thinking on putting, like living as is, or some kind of grading. So they would like to receive our work plan, for instance. So that's the next step. But it seems that it's open for, I don't want to say development, for this use of dog park. The other, there is another Caltrans property within the city, and that's under the freeway fronting Cleveland Avenue. And you can see it is clouded here. Shelley was telling me that the idea is to have it maybe open for a mountain bike track. So again, that's another possibility, but we need to send them some kind of design and a conceptual plan, and I don't want to, it's an operational plan. So we can go through the permit process. So there are some pictures also that we took of the 2 areas, if you want to just expand that. So this is the area that is under the freeway on-ramp, I-80 on-ramp, and that's I-80 under basically on the left-hand side.
Like Lower Pierce Street.
Lower Pierce Street, yeah. That's Cleveland Avenue, and that would be the area where the mountain bike track will be located. There might be another picture of the same. That location is the area for the dog park, which is across the north side of Buchanan, across from the proposed park and ride lot. That's another view of the same area, and another view. They have received the plans that you've seen. We are waiting for next step, or what documentation they need from us, Caltrans. And in terms of the park and ride is going into final phase for construction plan development in the next few weeks. And it's going to be a fee, a daily fee for the use, and it's going to be a fence all around. About 61 stalls will be there located, and about for every 25, it's about 9 or 10 disabled parking spaces, and we have requested the installation of the conduits for electrical vehicle charging stations in the future. With that, I'm going to entertain some questions. I think if you have some questions about the park and ride, I've been working with Caltrans and MTC in the designer with the development of the different conceptual concepts that they have for this park and ride. And finally, this is the one that is moving forward.
Any questions?
just wanted to make sure I'm understanding. So the people coming from San Francisco, their bus stop is over there on the on-ramp, and then
Yes.
people going to San Francisco, it's across the street.
It's across the street, that's right, yeah.
And that's a crosswalk that's gonna be put in basically
Yeah,
to get to the bus stop. The other one though, the one on the northbound side,
here?
there's, yeah, to get over to the side where right there.
Right.
Okay.
There's going to be some signal modifications. I'm asking for, we are asking for leading pedestrian intervals, and also in the last set of comments that we submitted, we are also requesting for a multi-use path on the north side of the south side parcel. So if you can, by the X, Shelley, if you can just, by this X. So that is a proposed sidewalk. I am asking for them to actually create either a cycle track or a multi-use trail, so cyclists can actually use it without dismounting to go to the bicycle lockers and to connect with the existing paths and trails that we have on the north side.
I'm just confused about where that parking lot actually exists, because it looks like it's over, maybe I'm just completely not reading this right.
They
but
laid it over the top of the freeway. But it's
Oh, yeah,
underneath
yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
it's
freeway.
underneath the free, so there's because from visually, you can't even tell that there is space underneath there, but okay.
Yeah.
So it's all underneath.
Carpool signal is like down here to get on the freeway.
Okay, this is Buchanan Street, okay.
I don't think I have another.
Well, there's two things you were talking about, so maybe we should first take questions about just the first part, the park and ride parking lot. Anybody have questions?
So I'm curious, is AC Transit in on those conversations? Because I know the people that take so I guess that's the L bus and it's the L bus that would be coming through. Like, I know that when it gets to its last stop at Pierce and Solano, it's usually full.
Yeah, they are actually at the table with us, and they have actually mentioned that. So they're thinking of some operational change that will start a service, the Transbay bus in Richmond, so it has some available seats when it reaches this location. Because, they mentioned that it's full.
Mm-hmm.
This is also going to be open for private shuttles or like high-tech shuttles as well. So it's going to be on the same area. It's going to be an area designated just for private shuttles in addition to the public transit.
Any other questions?
I assume the 12 spaces for bicycle parking means lockers, 12 lockers?
So there are lockers, yeah.
And that's in like this, okay.
I guess I have one other question. I don't know that much about, I haven't seen that many of these park and ride lots in this region. Like, I've seen them more up north. But I know that under the freeways right now, there's a big issue with the homeless population, and I wonder if you know anything about, like, when you pave over some of those spots where you have homeless people living, like, is it more of an attraction or a detractor?
It's going to be fenced and locked, so it's going to be very secured. We don't know yet if it's going to be an attendant in place, but that's something that MTC and Caltrans are talking about. We had a meeting before the holidays about the maintenance and what the city will be maintaining and what Caltrans will be maintaining. So at least it's fences protected and locked, basically.
And will there be lights as well? So
There's going to be lights, yeah. We're trying to extend the light. We're requesting Caltrans and MTC to see if we can extend, at least have some conduits for the alternate bicycle path. You know, that yellow, the loop that we have that goes under the freeway ramp for the bicycles and pedestrians. It's a long shot, but we're asking, so we don't know.
One more, I'm sorry.
Sure.
Does Caltrans use permeable pavement? Like, has there been any talk about using permeable pavers instead of asphalt underneath there?
For the park and it's going to be asphalt. That's my understanding at this point. I haven't seen the specifications. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I have. It's asphalt. Yeah.
Can we open for questions regarding the dog park? I'm just curious about if that's something that Caltrans thought up, or if the city council, or just wondering how the idea originated and what stage it's at.
It's us.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's not set that one would be for dogs and one would be for bike, but it seems like the most logical of the two, but it doesn't mean that those are the
Yeah, but when you say us, you mean
recreation. That was, you wanted to know if there were any other
Oh.
locations in Albany.
right? No, I know, but I thought we were just going to open about just possible locations, and just the way it was framed, it's like it's going to be a dog park, and I think we haven't even had that discussion about what's available and what we might use there. So I just wanted to.
It's
step
open
back.
for a use.
Okay, great.
That's a, yeah.
And so, but what kind? So that's maybe another question then. What are the options that Caltrans would allow? I guess what is the scope of what Caltrans would allow?
Well, at this point, the only communication I had with Caltrans is for a potential dog park.
That's the only thing that
Yeah,
they're
and
aware of. So.
For either lot. So the other use I asked in the email is for the mountain bike track.
Okay.
So they just want to see plans. They want to see an operational program or plan, what days of operation and times. Specifics about
Plans meaning just like a description, not
Yeah.
like engineering plans, obviously. So.
And no, they want to see where more just a conceptual plan drawn on something like this, for instance.
Okay. I don't know when we should start asking questions about that, Shelley, but I'm just wondering what would be because I think we're kind of jumping the gun to say we would even propose a plan. So what would be the process? Is that even something that the Park and Rec Commission would be in our purview to do? Or okay.
Yes, I mean, the task is from the City Council strategic plan to investigate open space areas that are Caltrans properties. There are a couple of them, and these are the two main options. The city doesn't have other things brewing that they want to use a space for. So we would make a proposal, or we could have someone, do a small drawing if we wanted to move forward.
Okay.
Because it's like using, if we wanted to, when we tried to do the Albany Greenway, we had to get Bart's approval to do certain things.
No, that's great. Thank
this
you.
is-
Thanks for asking Aleda to come
Aleda.
and to do this. Thank you, Aleda. No, so I guess my question then would be, if we are going to bring this to discussion, we probably need a little more information, right? Like the
And that's
size of
what-
it and, all of that. Maybe it might make sense for us, I personally would want to probably go out there. So is this, from what because I only see one picture like this.
All that Aleda is doing is kind of starting the conversation to see if this is even a possibility, because there hasn't been, those two areas have not been used for anything. And so now that they're actually trying to use this space for the park and ride, Aleda's just initiating the
Can I just
conversation.
jump in? So is the space that we're talking about for the pump track and for the dog park, is it on this map? I couldn't really see where things were with the other drawings. So that would be
Under the freeway.
under so the other side from the park and ride.
Yes.
Yeah, and there are some pictures there.
That's what I thought. I just wasn't.
It's not in the package.
The other
wasn't
side.
clear.
Yeah,
It's-
okay.
It wasn't in the package, so I couldn't study it.
Right
So
there, you can see the actual.
If I look at a 15-minute, yes, I can.
And it's tricky because this map is flipped. So
Yeah.
this side is the, this
Park
is
and
the
ride?
Park and ride.
And-
On the opposite side. And then this is the
Right,
other
okay,
flat
okay.
area.
Right, got it.
The other thing I want to point out that for the park and ride use is that there's also plenty of parking on the Buchanan extension west of the freeway. So if you continue here, we cannot see it, but about 2 years ago we striped the stalls, and then there's a 3-hour permit, 3-hour parking there. It's about maybe 27 parking spaces. The other thing is that there's an option of just to park there at the park and ride. Maybe right now the daily fee is $3 according to MTC. They might change it to 2, 4, whatever they want to do. But it could be maybe a 2-hour free, use.
Kind of park and bark, is that what we're talking? Okay.
Yeah, something like that. Park and bark. That's what, yeah. So,
So Aleda, what would you suggest, if we're interested in exploring these areas, what would you suggest we do as a next step as a commission?
I think the next step is that we send these plans to Caltrans, the ones with the cloud, and then with a short description of what we want to do, a potential, basically it's just concept exploratory email, and then after that, the encroachment permits will send us exactly what they want, that they would like to see. And then from there, I think I want to talk to Shelley. Maybe there is an engineering company that actually, as you said, we need to measure very well. These are good plans. We can get them from Caltrans, and then we can just have a conceptual plan. I think that's the next step, and then submit to them according to what we are required to submit.
So maybe we should, as a commission, then, we should be looking at these plans in a separate meeting, separate agenda item, and start digging in and start brainstorming what we might want in those two areas.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you might not want the dog park there. Maybe not the other one, and maybe you want to have but think about linking and connection, and I mean there's always the multi-use alternative path, and also with new improvements for the park and ride, it's going to have a bicycle crossing also, so things like that. And then you have the Pierce Street Park right now for the bicycle or for the dog park, I don't know. So yeah, why don't you just do brainstorming? Let's wait for Caltrans' response for the list of items they need from us, and with that, I think you guys can start thinking.
Okay. Thank you, Aleda.
I have one more question, and this is actually back to the park ride. So I'm looking at the drawing here, and so if somebody's coming from Albany to the park, they're going to have to go down and make a U-turn and swing around,
Yeah.
cut across 3 lanes of traffic and jump into that.
Right, and then maybe, right, that's,
That's more traffic than say, I'm just curious. Okay.
yeah.
Right here?
Yeah, they have to go all the way down and, yeah. Okay, great. I know that there's not going to be a lot of traffic coming the other direction. I know, so that's not. an
Right.
issue, But it would be, yeah.
Right, well, yeah, so. There's going to be a fence also to, one issue we had at the beginning of maybe a conceptual level was that people from the bus stop was going to try to jaywalk. And then in order to avoid that, we want to have a fence in the median.
Right.
So it's a 10-foot fence, I think. So nobody could jump that.
And the plans that we're looking at on the screen are the 65, and the one in your packet was 35. That's what
Okay.
that's
Yeah,
what
so
I
it's
had
a
at the
little bit
moment. So
more
this
advanced.
might look a little different than your 35.
That's right.
Any other, did you have a question?
I thought I remembered from a previous meeting, we said there might be a dog park subcommittee, or there was a discussion about getting some people that, just engaging with people, I don't know, maybe a number of people here have dogs, but just, that would be interesting and helpful as we're thinking about those things, I feel like.
Yeah, and that's the ad hoc, we talked about that before, it actually wasn't a subcommittee out of this commission, it was Shelley, can you explain the?
It was it's an ad hoc committee, and they had looked at various dog issues over the years. They get the call to action if we have a dog-related item come up. I don't think we actually settled the situation with if they are still active or not, and so but we can settle that. But it's a great idea. I mean, this was just a launch point to start, like, is it even possible? And then once we get moving, this is like, when you start a project, this is like the first baby step.
Yeah, it's very preliminary right now. Yeah?
One other question. I don't know, have we seen other parks underneath highways like this? I guess my question is there any risk of debris coming off the highway with people underneath, or dogs underneath, or mountain bikers underneath? Just checking.
That is a good question for Caltrans. I think Caltrans has a park, dog park at Rock Ridge by the road.
It's called Frog Park.
Frog Park, yeah,
And
that's
this-
right.
They actually have a playground and basketball courts and a dog area.
I don't
off of,
think they
Claremont.
have issues, but we,
It's right underneath the freeway, just
Right
like
underneath the
this?
freeway. yeah.
yeah.
It's a really great use of space too, because it otherwise would be a kind of not very nice
Yep.
thing to walk by, and instead it's something that a lot of people come to, and it very well. And
Yeah.
the Transbay bus actually picks up right across the street from it as well there, so.
Yeah, right, yeah.
There's another good example in San Francisco, which is under the freeway, the off-ramp at Octavia, and they've turned that area into a skate park
Oh,
and a
that's
dog park, which used to just be not a nice place.
Right,
And now it has a lot of activity. It's a great spot, yeah.
right.
Any other-
Well, I'm welcome to help also if you want to. I think that with the Caltrans process, I can help you.
Great, thank
Yes,
you,
thank
Aleida. Appreciate
And I will share an article, I have it at my computer, but an article of San Francisco that is beginning leasing with Caltrans to put in more parks under freeways in San Francisco. It's a new program.
Yeah, that's really great use of space. Okay,
Thanks so much. Appreciate
See you
it.
later.
thank you very much.
Okay. Next item is. See. Ohlone,
Tell you my idea.
right? 6-2 Ohlone Greenway Memorial Tree Replacement. John, right?
Yes, give me 1 second to get his. Okay, if I can introduce this item for you. When we were doing the tree removals for the Ohlone Greenway, we had to remove a number of trees in the Ohlone Greenway and one at the corner of Solano and Masonic, which was a memorial tree for, it was a former, actually, fire chief's son who passed away. It was the small magnolia, and there's a rock with a plaque on it. Isabel Leduc, she's now my former recreation manager, was in contact with the family. They were fine with us removing the magnolia, and we let them know that we would replace that tree in a location near the same location. They were fine with us doing that. And so John has walked the site, and he can let us know a couple sites he's found.
Yeah, where the tree was originally was near the corner of Solano, and it's sidewalk now. There's just no room for a tree, especially a magnolia tree. So I found 2 more sites. The first one on the right is kind of behind where the log structure is set up now. There's an open space, and it kind of continues with the trees that are planted from the corner, from the, was it the Kiwanis corner? Or whatever?
Rotary, yeah.
There's a couple, I think, cork oak trees, and then there's a big empty space, which would be a nice space. But the other spot to the left is directly across from the crosswalk.
The new
It's-
crosswalk.
Yeah, it's a little bit hidden by some shrubs that are planted there, but it would be a good spot for a tree. And we were looking at this tulip magnolia, which is a smaller magnolia, but really pretty, really nice flowers. And, you know, I think those are probably the only 2 good spots there, unless we go further down the trail, there's some more, but those are the closest spots to the original planting, so.
And John was concerned about putting in another regular, good old-fashioned magnolia due to its size.
Yeah, the southern magnolias get huge, so there's not really room for a tree like that there, but these smaller types are be nice. And
How big does it get?
this tree about 10, 12 feet tall, maybe.
Of the 2 sites you have listed there, do you have a preference?
I like the second one. It's a little, the one towards the left, I think it's a little more obscure, but it's, I think, just a better environment for the tree. Magnolias like a little moisture, and that's a little deeper in the greenway, so either one would do.
And just curious about why the constraints of that space? Is it the planting strip, or what's the reason that it needs to be smaller trees?
Because southern magnolia grows 30, 35 feet height and width, and there's just not that kind of room.
Well, right, no, I'm wondering, like, is there a medium, or, I mean, do you need a really small tree for that? I'm just wondering about the space constraints. Is it limited to a very small tree? Because it sounds like what you're recommending would be pretty small.
It's the proximity also to the BART tracks in that area.
Okay,
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
And
There's plenty of planting space, but for the crown of the tree, there's not a lot of space because of BART and the
okay.
other trees and.
you're also right next to the neighbors, the fence is right there, yeah. Be
What's
hanging
the
over
cost per tree for these type trees?
What does it cost? To just buy the tree or to have it planted, or?
The whole enchilada?
I could get that tree in the ground for 300, 350 probably.
Was the tree that it's replacing, was a tall, big 30-foot tree, or no?
It wasn't, it was kind of stunted, which was one reason it was kind of easy to have it removed. But it would have been, possibly would have been eventually.
Do we ever think of putting 2 trees in? 2 spots that are 2 smaller trees that will make it look really
Well, it's a
nice?
memorial, so we have, it's
Oh, I
going to be
see.
one tree. We could definitely put another tree in. Hopefully, eventually, we will put more trees in those empty spaces there, so.
Any comments, questions?
And you've talked to the family, and they like the smaller tree and the,
We will, if you guys are fine with it. They weren't particularly concerned about it. They were just,
okay,
go ahead, we're fine with you moving it or picking a
okay,
new spot.
okay, all right.
I think this tree will start flowering in a year or 2 years, and the other one,
Beautiful.
I don't know if it ever flowered,
No.
so it'll be nice trees.
And we stuck with magnolias because of I had one of these in my backyard, and it's February-ish, and they bloom, and it's
Yeah,
just a
they're
nice
beautiful
blooming
trees.
tree for a memorial. It seems like a nice tribute.
And so this is a recommended action, right? So do we have a motion? Or any other questions, I guess, first? No? Okay. Motion?
No public comment, yeah. Somebody left their, I kept that.
Yeah, no
Are
public comment.
you fine with, it doesn't say that you have to vote on it, but if you want to
Oh, okay.
just say if you're fine with
Okay, so I think.
letting John pick an appropriate spot, or if you have an opinion on one or the other,
Okay,
you can let him know.
thank you. Okay, so next item, 6.3, Aloni Tot Lot Project Update.
Okay.
It's quite an agenda today.
It's all over the place, right? Okay.
Yeah, we missed a meeting, we did. Let's not do that again.
Look at next month, we already have 5.
You guys got the pictures of before and after, which is great. I hope that you have enjoyed looking at the Dartmouth Tot Lot. Most of the project for the WW project has been completed, which was replacing the fence around the Tot Lot, repainting the railings and items in the park Tot Lot. We actually did replaced this sidewalk, the area, the platform area where, this is where the old drinking fountain was, and there was a crack and a few things, so that's been repaired. This is the old wonderful fountain that's been removed. We took these 2 big billies that we had inside and moved them out so to create more space. It's pretty crowded if you've been over there with strollers and kids, and removed just I think it was a very, very small olive bush at one point. And this is the new area. So this is the first bottle filling station that's gone into Albany, and people really like it. It's gotten great comments from everybody we've talked to. So the last remaining part of the project is putting in a new sign. And the sign location, I will show you. No, that's not it, sorry. Couldn't get everything opened. Show you anyways. It's basically the front of the park, which is this area here on this slide. I thought I had one more picture.
It's in the packet.
It is in the packet, yeah, if you have your packet.
Yeah, it's the corner.
It is the corner. The sign proposal in terms of the design is the exact same design that we're using in all of our parks now. So Pierce Street Park, Terrace Park was the first one to get the sign. And then Pierce Street was the first park we've had in, 30 years, or since 30 years. And so we're using the same design. Now, the size is going to change. The Public Works, the construction manager is going to size it to the appropriate spot there. So I just gave you this an example so you could see the specs. These specs are actually from Pierce Street Park sign. So it will be scaled to fit the space in front and use the same fonts and lettering. I put in Dartmouth Tot Lot to show you the example. But the other item in the packet is, because we are actually putting in a sign, is to discuss if this is the time, if you'd like to make a recommendation to council to actually formally change the name to something besides the default Dartmouth Tot Lot. That's just what we call it because of its location. Hasn't officially been named. The history behind it, I've done some research as much as we could find with the city clerk. The property was, a woman passed away who owned the property in 1985, and in her will said that she wanted to give her property to the city of Albany if the city would use it as a children's playground. And the city, Parks and Rec and the city council went through a process and voted that they would like to accept the property and make it a park, and so they did, obviously. The other option was to not do that and split the proceeds from the sale of the lot between two different charities, and City Council went with this one. I looked through everything because the story that's been passed down through the years, and there aren't very many people left in the area that were there in 1985, that there was a plaque that was put in and that it was removed because the family said that Opal, the woman's name is Opal, didn't want to be recognized. And there were suggestions that the park be made, named after her, and no formal action taken. And so it's more of a story that's been handed down. And I can't find an actual document that we put in a plaque. Someone probably did at that time. And I was hoping I would find something that said we actually did name it after her and that this had already gone through a process. It's not required. It's really up to you. The neighborhood calls it, they have a neighborhood group that's called the Friends of Opal's Tot Lot or Opal's Park. It's a strong neighborhood group. One of the members was here when we were talking about possibly adding a bathroom there. They would be in favor of naming it Opal's Tot Lot. It's referred to a lot if you look online for Opal Standing Tot Lot, it's all over the place. People call it that. We call it Dartmouth Tot Lot, so you see that being picked up as well. So my suggestion is that it has been passed down. Opal didn't have any children, and I tried to look up the two executors of the will from 33 years ago, and I was not successful in finding anybody. But that if we're not, if the point is not to name it a memorial of her, but maybe just name it after her, and in a playful, using her first name, which is wonderful, that could be the option. Or if you had another suggestion. There's a process for naming something officially. It goes through a process. You would make a recommendation, and that would go to the city manager, and the city manager would review it, and then it would go in front of council, and they would make the ultimate decision on it. If you'd like to leave it the default, then it's Dartmouth Tot Lot, and we can go move on and have the sign made.
Shelley, thank you so much for researching it. I mean, I really feel like it's a nice, intentional, like, out of the scope of your normal job thing to do. And you know, when you first mentioned it, I was like, oh, that's so lovely. But at the same time, if she didn't want to be recognized, you know, it's just a little bit tricky since you don't have the documentation. And if she didn't want to be recognized for it, then, but I get what you're saying too. Mm-hmm. I'm just wondering, I mean, to me, I feel like before we take a step like that, I'd really want to hear from the community directly if it's really important or not. But that's just my 2 cents.
I kind of liked that it was Dartmouth because it told me where it was, but I did not realize there was a whole community group that was already referring to it and the people that are using it. So that changed, and also the whole story really changed my thinking about it. So.
It's a very strong neighborhood group. Their abbreviation is the Albany Friends of Opal's Tot Lot, or Opal's something something. Yeah, but that's they're the aloofs or oofs or. But there, if you ever want to go to a great block party, you go to that one.
Yeah, yeah.
We asked Lori when she was here because we were talking about Dartmouth Tot Lot, and I talking about name change, and she was saying that they would totally be in favor of it because they've named their group after it. But it's a very strong group, so if I put out the question, if people were into it or not. We can also invite them if it's the item is on the, goes to council, there's another opportunity for people to give input, but.
Yeah, I would feel comfortable recommending that we change it to Opal's. I mean, we're not using the last name, so it's not quite so memorial. I don't know, I would be in favor of that. And it's recommendation, and then it would go through the process where feedback from the community and the like.
Right, so like if you you could potentially
We're
put
not-
it
we're
as
not
an agenda
deciding anything,
item,
we're just
right?
saying
And then we
make
just
this-
vote on
we can move
it.
it
as-
forward.
Right, okay.
Yeah, that would be.
Yeah, I mean, right, anybody's welcome to do that on this commission, right? So,
Yep.
What about, like, so we have Peggy Thompson, Pierce Street Park, like, is there room to call it Opal's Dartmouth?
I was thinking that too, actually.
Oh, to have both? Of course.
I think that there's some, it's nice to have clarity, you know, like you were saying, like, oh, some people might still call it, I used to call it the Dartmouth Tot Lot. So some people may still use that, and then it's nice to have the sign, have both.
I do like the idea of the smallest park can have the biggest name, so if we can maybe extend that a little bit.
But Terrace Park is Jules.
Yeah.
Park,
Jules
and-
Terrace Park, yeah.
Jules Terrace Park, and it just says Terrace Park on the signage.
And that's because it was, the sign went in before, and Jules passing away was after, so they added a top to it. A little rounded section at the top that says Jules. So it's, and the same thing happened, Peggy Thompson, that process went through council. It was recommended, actually by the Parks and Rec Commission, before everyone except for you two, was recommended by a former commissioner. And as soon as you hit this timeline, someone has to have passed away for a year in order to be considered to be something to be named after them. And when that came up, we took the item to council, and they approved it. And so there was discussion about, should it just be Peggy Thompson Park? And then the final vote was to leave the Pierce Street Park in there.
Well, I mean, personally, I just think I really like, she actually donated the land, so I think there's a lot of, I mean, there's a lot of connection there, right? So, well, so then maybe that's something we could put on another agenda, an agenda for a future meeting. And I don't know if that's an action to take, but, and I would ideally want it to be a meeting where the people that are interested would be able to attend. I don't know if you want to coordinate it that way, but.
You can do any way, because if you make a recommendation, this is what the former commissioner did, was he said, I'm making the recommendation that it should be named Peggy Thompson Pierce Street
Okay.
Park. And then I just held on to it. If you make a recommendation that I think we should name it Opal's Dartmouth Tot Lot, we can send out the notice. We have thanks to the Friends of Albany Parks mailing list. When I sent out the notice about putting in a restroom, I got probably 50 emails from neighbors about that. So we can send it out and get people's input. And then that can accompany the recommendation and be supporting documents or not supporting, for sure.
So then it would go straight to council. Like, if we made the recommendation tonight, then it would go straight to council. Those people could show up at the council meeting, voice their concerns, in addition to sending you emails, and then it's council's decision.
Yes, ultimately, yes.
Yeah, and so that would expedite it, and that way you would be able to get the sign made, because you're waiting on that right now.
Yeah, ultimately, that would be great. But no, I mean, I think that a suggestion of Opal's Dartmouth Tot Lot is a great suggestion, since we do have other names in there.
And I
Yes.
do tend to think council likes things a little more digested rather than a little less digested. So if we handled the initial public input, that they might prefer that, would be my sense.
Yes. I've sent out emails to all of my Albany Historical Society people, and only 2 of them said, that's what I remember. And
There's no title change that shows that information, no? The
No.
property title?
no,
Oh, that's interesting.
no.
Okay.
They got the land, they call it, I think it's the address, 1072 Talbot it's referred to, the property at 1072 Talbot.
And there's nothing in the original agreement that says you can't name it after me. It's just
Nothing
like-
in there, and it wasn't anonymous because it went through, I think, 4 public meetings with the will in every packet, and her name is in the packet.
So you do have that. Sorry,
Yeah.
I wasn't clear. You do have this trace, the records of her donate, right, okay.
She donated a number of letters in support and telling stories about her, and there's a really sweet letter about how she would just let all the kids play in her yard and actually put out equipment for them, and so it was important that it became a play park. And the last little story I've been telling is that I'm reading through this, and one of the people that was against the park, her name was Dorothy Brown, and Dorothy Brown is a very lovely historical person in Albany, and I sent her a note and said, really, you're against a park? And she's like, yes, I hate parks, I hate this. But there was another Dorothy Brown that lived there at the time, and it was not the Dorothy Brown. She said she does like parks. It's actually interesting stuff in those old documents.
So then, could I move
Yeah.
to make a recommendation that we recommend that it be called Opal's Dartmouth Tot Lot, and that you collect information from people in that community about that?
I second that motion.
Okay. I just have a question. I just don't want people to be upset that this wasn't
yeah.
a noticed public process, because it's actually a significant thing.
It is on the
It
agenda.
is, yeah.
It is on the
Oh, okay. But it doesn't, it's, all right. Is it really that clear?
It is. Well,
It is.
To change the name, commission to discuss making, okay. All right.
I checked too.
I'm not saying that people will come out if we put it on the agenda in a different way, so.
No, it's okay. They'll only be mad at you. So we're good. The chair gets all
No. This is on record.
I'm good.
So, okay,
Maybe they're watching right now.
come on down.
Run down.
Okay.
Yes.
Anybody? Okay, so we vote?
Yes.
Okay, so all in favor of changing the name to Opal's Dartmouth Tot Lot, right?
Good.
In favor? Okay, great. You raised your hand, right? Okay, okay.
And then
thank
if
you.
B, will you also do B, which is just to approve
Oh,
the sign that is
approve the design of park sign to match other city park signs?
just as a formality, I think.
Yeah,
I move
do
that
one
we
more.
accept the approved design.
okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We didn't get a second, but.
Oh, sorry.
Gino did. You're right, Gino
Thank you,
did.
Gino.
Just not used to Gino saying anything.
All in favor? Yes?
I do have a question about,
Okay, we already voted, okay.
Thank you.
actually had a question about the Dartmouth, the painting, the gray concrete at the bottom. Remember there was mention that maybe we could do a mural or something on that? Is that still possible?
That would have to go through Arts Committee, because it's city property. There was a neighborhood painting
Yeah, I remember
that just wasn't approved. And so if there's an interest of doing some sort of art project with the neighbors, then we'd want to kind of pass that to Arts Committee and see if they have an arts master plan that designates different arts things at different sites. But,
that. Yeah, I like the things you did on the Ohlone Greenway. You know, I see some of the artwork there.
yeah,
It'd be nice to do that here, because this looks kind of like a jail for kids.
well, that's what parks are.
Yeah.
I mean, kids between 2 and 5, they're small jails.
Jail for kids.
You have to lock them in. You have to lock them in. But I think that you're right in the sense that there is an old wall that's in that park that was this demonstration of recycling that is definitely deteriorated. And so I don't think it's a far shot to discuss that, of turning that into some other use than it is now, yes. The Ohlone Greenway has a little bit of a different situation because that's a private property. And so as a rec department, we went to all of those neighbors and asked, hey, would you like volunteers to paint over your graffiti, or would you like to do it, or something else? And then we had this artist that said, I'll do it, and he worked with all those neighbors and did those murals for free. Yeah, and so it's been such a great addition, you're right. But I can pass it along if you guys are interested in investigating that.
Sure. That's great. Okay, thanks. Anything else? Next item, 6-4, Ohlone Greenway log scramble fence.
Here we go. Okay. So many exciting things going on. This is something that happened after we opened the park. We had a park inspector actually inspect the equipment, make sure it was all usable, and he made some suggestions, a few items that we needed to add. One of them is needing to have a barrier between that log scramble and the street. And there is regulation that asks for that. And so over this December, meeting with Public Works, the engineers, and then RDG, we have come up with where to put a fence to create a barrier, so it does what it's supposed to in terms of not letting kids just run from the log scramble across, but also not look like we just put up a fence around the area. Not a chain link fence, this would be a wood fence, and we'll meet the requirements for fencing around playgrounds. And I think I included a picture of an example. The mesh on this is a little tighter than it would be by the log scramble. It'd be a little wider mesh. There's some requirements about, you just can't get like your toe in it and climb over, I guess is basically. Everything's to trap children, it is. And this is gonna go in. The Public Works will build it. This is the basic design. It's a pretty simple fence, but RDG recommended wood, so it looks natural to kind of go with what's out there with the logs and not to call out that there's a fence. And so this is mainly a heads up that it's going in, unless you have serious objections, but I can pass that along.
Can we go back to that page, the map page?
Yes.
Is that,
Can you see the,
I can see the fence. I'm just wondering, what is it protecting against?
so here's a log scramble,
Street?
which is being considered
Oh, Masonic.
a
Okay, got it.
playground piece. And that's, first we had just a rock and then we switched it and the log scramble came together and we put in the correct, FIBAR surfacing underneath it for impacts. So it's being considered a playground structure.
Okay.
And although there are large boulders and another large log here that felt like a barrier, he was recommending that be something more substantial. It's getting a lot of use, so that makes sense.
Any questions?
I just want to make a comment that I drive by this all the time, and I see so many people enjoying it. So it's just a wonderful addition to the community. So whatever will keep people safe, I think, makes sense. But I think it's a great structure. Actually, I see people using both parts of the.
Yeah. And they decided to do this so that it kind of follows the line of the sidewalk. It's set back, so it softens it a little bit, so you're not walking. I mean, I think it has to be 4 feet tall, so it's an
So
actual fence.
I certainly understand the need for the sign along the street, but I understand it less along the walkway. Is it because it's a bike lane, or
It isn't going all the way around.
it isn't going all the way?
No. We're having to come right here. This right here is one of the BART.
Oh, I see. Okay,
So it comes
okay.
right to here and just kind of creates a little
That line, that
wraparound.
line isn't continuing. Okay, I see.
That's right. And then it ends here at the other BART pillar thing.
Right, okay.
So kids would have
Got
to
it.
run around a bunch of rocks and run all the way around to get.
Oh, and they will.
Yeah. It's not for lack of trying to keep them in.
Yes.
Unless you put them in prison.
Yes.
Are there any other options, like natural options? I think,
Yeah.
I love how it looks when I drive by, and I think this is gonna change
I
my
know.
sight. I'm just,
I know. I think we all had our heads down and we were moaning about it, trying to think of it.
What about, is there like planting, or can you do plantings, like bushes that would just be more?
It asked for a fence, yeah. I mean,
Is
the
there
standards.
there's a standard?
Yeah, there's a regulation for playground safety, and it's
I
in the ATSM standards for playgrounds.
Even if depends on the age, it doesn't depend on the age?
No, not this one, because the hazard is the road, and
I
it's
see.
within a number of feet of the structure, so.
Can we go back to the other picture of the fence? Can the kind of the netting or the webbing not be so bright? Can it be a darker color? Like a black or a dark green?
Yeah, I
To
can ask
Make it
her.
look little less visible?
Let me ask him. I mean, I think it's just a steel mesh, I'm not sure
Yeah,
it's gonna
there
kinda
might be
rust or
plastic
something,
coat, but
right?
yeah.
Any other questions? Is there an action here? Is there?
No,
But it says approve the installation of the safety fence. Do we have any options?
No, you don't, really. It's going to happen, and in this case, you know, the engineers were involved, which is great, and RDG, although Bob left RDG, he came back and he's the one consulting and recommended this fence. He's the guy that you want to trust his eye on this. He does a lot of natural park installations, and so of all the other options, which were a metal fence, kind of like at Memorial Park, that was an option. One option, which I didn't let leave Public Works, which was mesh chain link. And I was like, no. And so this, he thought, would be the most, it will weather, it'll look more like the surroundings best we can without looking like we just threw up a fence because we didn't put a fence in. I think it will turn out and it will look fine. So we're going to add a few plantings in front of it to kind of make it feel softer and.
Yeah, that'll help plantings, I think.
And it kind of goes in between all the big boulders that are there, and some of it rides over the boulder. So he's trying to blend it, but it still is a 4-foot fence.
Does the wood go on the outside near the street or the inside near the park?
I think that these I think are on the outside, so kids can't climb. I think, yeah. The concern is that then a child will climb it, I believe.
So this is really more of an information.
It really is.
Unless somebody's really opposed and we want to take it to city
Yeah.
council or something.
Yeah, no, I will add the feedback about trying to make it blend as much as possible in the mesh.
Okay.
And we can vote on it just so we can say we voted on it, but.
But we all have to vote yes.
Yeah, I don't know if I don't want to take a vote if we don't have a choice. So I would say just go to the next item. Yeah, maybe next time we could be really.
You don't need us. Do you need us to
Not
vote?
really, it's a safety correction, we're
Yeah.
gonna fix it and make it right.
Yeah, maybe next time we could just be informational, so we're
Yes.
not like on the record as saying this or
Yes.
that. Okay.
Do you, I mean, we have the action minutes. Are you going to be able to indicate something so that we did talk about it?
Commission discussed and made
Very
recommendations.
good. That's enough. That's good.
Okay. Item 6.5, selection of chair and vice chair. Oh, we get to.
It's the time.
That's-
It's
yeah,
just,
let's do it.
It happens in January every year because we start a new year. The only rules, I think, is that a chair can serve two years, 2 terms in a row, but there's not a hard fast, but that's the recommendation. So you could keep the same structure since you guys started in the middle, or you could reorganize. And the way it happens, and if you want to start with chair first, you make nominations, and the last nominations made is the one you vote on first.
Okay, let's hear nominations, please.
I nominate the current slate.
Second.
Oh, jeez.
Let's vote.
You guys.
I actually cannot accept.
You
the
can't
nomination.
accept? Oh, no.
Sorry.
Okay.
Oh, I thought you were vice.
No, no.
The quiet vice.
Oh, good. Good. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to protest. I was actually glad. I thought I was being nominated
Railroaded
for
a
the
little
same.
bit.
No.
You are.
I thought I was being nominated for the same post, so I was hoping
are.
that it would. Oh, but I thought you just said, oh, for both of us. I see. Oh, so you're saying the slate like up and down? Okay, got it. And you're saying you can't?
I cannot. I'm not sure I'll be able to commit like
Okay.
a couple years. So.
Okay. Is anybody interested? I just want to keep it open. Is anybody interested in being chair?
Or you can nominate someone.
I could nominate.
I'm too new.
I want to read Gina.
I feel like I'm still learning.
Veterans? Yeah, really? Okay.
All right.
So do you want nominations for vice?
Sure, let's do them. Let's do it. Let's do those two.
I nominate Commissioner Patterson. It's a great way to.
It'll give me a learning
Yeah,
opportunity.
there you go.
Yeah.
What does this entail? Just, yeah,
It's just
I'll-
this
I will
moderation.
accept
Yeah.
that if I have to. Or
it's
not
just-
if I have to, but is that what I say?
Pretty much.
Fine. It will give me a chance to
That's-
learn.
It's just
I'm thrilled.
moderation.
Just
I'm
swear
not
if I
here,
have to,
yeah,
that's
which would be
fine.
great, yeah.
If you make me.
Any reason you cannot fulfill your duties, that's.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay. So how do we do that? Do we take a vote?
There's only 2. You guys are the only ones nominated, so let's vote on chair and vice chair as one.
Okay, so all in
You
favor?
guys all good with it?
All in favor?
Yeah.
All opposed? Okay. I feel like I kind of want to. Okay. All right. Future agenda items. Shelley, these are the future agenda items you're proposing, right? Or you're just
That I know.
putting in the queue?
Yeah.
Does anybody have any future agenda items we should include here?
It sounds like the dog park was something we were going to talk about maybe in a future meeting.
Yes, probably not the next one, but yes, future. Unless something comes up that's,
And I can say, if we're looking for feedback from the dog park folks, we should wait till the Section B opens again in
Yeah,
late
that's right.
February in order to get them here.
Yeah.
Anyway, so.
We call it an area instead of dog park.
Section B, that's right.
Section B.
I would just, the only thing I want to make note of for the street tree removal policy is, in case we don't get to the meet before then, before February, I might want to, personally, I don't know about you, Gino, but I might want to push it to like March, just so we have a little more time, so. But are you guys prepared for the,
Well, we need to get together with our
One more
other
time.
member and figure out when we can all meet.
Okay.
So if we can do that before the next meeting, we can try.
okay, so I guess we'll just let Shelley know. Great, okay. Thank you, guys. Meeting adjourned.
Thank you. Congratulations.